Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm also extremely pleased to be here. I've heard so much about these Tuesday saloons, so I've come to see for myself. And obviously, for us, for a new perspectiva, I'm here with my new perspectiva hat on. This is first as much as it is for D4D. I don't know whether you know about New Perspectiva. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. But one of the things we really want our website to be is a space for people to come to talk, to debate, to ask questions in particular. If there are things they don't understand, as Leon said, with the normalization process. But it's also about trying to change the narrative as well. And so at the end there'll be more, well, the end or along the line, there'll be more of a joint understanding of the reality here. And that's why it's important for me today to be here, to listen to you, to hear how you see some of these issues. So then later on it's easier for me, along with all the rest of us, to respond to some of these. And when Leon first raised this with me and I said we'd do it, I thought long and hard, what are we going to talk about? Because I could see they'd done a wide range of issues. I didn't want to find something that was a bit hackneyed. But I kept on, and I'm not really sure why, I kept on remembering something I'd read in a book, in a novel recently, which had thrown up, not a new question in my mind, but it slightly provoked me to think differently, probably because of my knowledge of Kosovo and what I'm doing here now. So I decided to use this topic of forgiveness and forgetting, or remembering. And the book I read was by an incredible Malaysian author called Tan Twang Eng. And this one was called The Garden of Evening Mists. And he's writing about Malaya just after the Second World War. Malaya, which is a very multi-ethnic country, and which of course went through horrendous experiences under the Japanese occupation. And two of the main characters in his book, one is somebody called Magnus, who is actually an Afrikaner, so came from South Africa as a result of the Boer War in 1902, so we're going back a bit. And he and his family had had horrendous experiences at the hands of the British Army and also what was then called the Imperial Army. And he had left, he'd been in British prisoner of war camp, and he had left South Africa to live in Malaya. The other character is a Malay girl who is called Yung Ling, who is of Chinese extraction, who suffered horrendous abuse at the hands of the Japanese, and she was held in a Japanese camp during the war. And she is retiring from her job, and she decides she would like to learn, for various reasons, Japanese gardening. So this whole issue comes up of how she can go to a Japanese person after all her experiences. And I'll read you this really important part, a couple of quotes from it. So Magnus is explaining what happened to his family in South Africa during the Boer War, and he says, I was away fighting the English when Kitchener, that's General Kitchener, the great British hero, when Kitchener's men showed up at our farm in the morning. My father was at home. He put up a fight. They shot him, and then they burned down our farmhouse. And what happened to your sister? Yung Ling asks. She was sent to a concentration camp at Bloemfontein. She died of typhoid, or perhaps not. Survivors later said the English had mixed powder glass into the prisoners' food. And then she says to him, and this was really the line which made me think about this, because of the word forgiven. She says to him, "You've forgiven the British?" And he says, "They couldn't kill me when we were at war. They couldn't kill me when I was in the camp. But holding on to my hatred for 46 years, that would have killed me." And then says, "So listen to me. Listen to an old man. Don't despise all the Japanese for what some of them did. Let it go, this hatred in you. Let it go." And this is what stayed in my mind, in particular the word about, "Have you forgiven the British?" Because when I read it, I thought, well, what do you feel when you've forgiven someone? How do you forgive? Do you feel a kind of wave going through your body? Or do you have to go through a process? And this is a really big concept. And do we actually need to forgive? Isn't it maybe more important to forget? And then I thought, well, no, if you forget, it may happen again. Because, we always say quite rightly, you mustn't forget the terrible things that happened during the war. Because if you forget, it will happen again. So, of course, then, the discussion for me is about how you forget, the context and the language you use around forgetting, or, to speak more positively, how you memorize again, what narrative you use. And that's really what I want to hear from you today, but I will put in another extra quote. I'm very good at using other people's language because they say it better than I do. But as Murin said, I spent a long time in Poland, and I was there all during the incredible solidarity period. And one of the great heroes of solidarity was Adam Michnich. He was a totally civic figure who had a great vision for his country. And he developed this slogan with Václav Havel of amnesty yes, amnesia no. And there was a lot of discussion around it. And as he says very strongly is, we can't change our history, but our history is our common heritage. Our awareness of that heritage can be a source of strength if we succeed in honestly evaluating it, or a source of destructive conflict if we bequeath the emotions and obsessions that we have experienced to our children. And I think that's so much what it's about. How do we pass these memories on to our children to avoid these things happening again? And I know we're not the first people to ask these questions. And of course, Adam Michnich here was talking about political, but sometimes bloody political conflict. We all know it from Stalinism and communism. So that they're different conflicts and they're different hatreds which have to be erased and put right. So that's really my thinking. What are we passing on to our children? How are we going to memorize these issues? Thank you.